Hello and welcome to the Hitout. I am your host, Phoenix Trinidad. This is Zero Hangers AFL podcast where we talk about AFL, everything that happened on the weekend, everything that's going to happen in the next weekend. And this week we are talking about Adelaide. Are they the unluckiest team in the AFL? Sure seems that way. We're also going to go over the teams that are in a pretty bad state. Carlton, Melbourne, Port Adelaide. And we're also going through our Zero Hanger rankings, our MVP, our rookie rankings, recruit of the year. I've got a couple of secret segments, and I'll explain the jersey at some point throughout the podcast. Don't worry about that. I know it looks a little bit weird at the moment. So let's get into it. All right, fellas, we are back for another episode of The Hitout. I'm joined by Callum Farquhar, writer for Zero Hanger, and another writer for Zero Hanger, Aidan Cellini. How are we, boys?
Doesn't get old, that pronunciation.
Oh, it will, don't worry.
But doing good. But more interested in what jersey you're wearing right now.
This is a New Zealand Warriors jersey that I just got today in the post. Shout out to Retro Rugby League. I have decided that I am... I think I'm just going to be an NRL fan from now on because the Dees have just disappointed me far too much, and it's just upsetting to be a Dees fan at the moment. So I think I'm just going to fully jump on the Wars bandwagon and see how we go. But did you ever watch League?
Oh yeah, big League fan. I'm actually like half Kiwi myself, so maybe.
Oh really?
If Hawthorn weren't doing so great, maybe I'd jump on there as well. But
All right.
Retro Rugby League, shout me one, please.
Yeah. I mean, I had to. I bought it, but yeah, it's a good one. Do you actually follow the Warriors?
A little bit.
Okay. Cool. Well, let's get into the footy. We've already sidetracked. Adelaide, are they the unluckiest team in the AFL? So what is going on?
Yeah, well, I think everyone realises and can recognise Isaac Rankin, non-free kick, non-mark call in that close game against the Suns. AFL came out and considered that it probably was an error. Probably should have had a shot on goal, which could have ended up getting them the victory. But if you look back and date it back to 2023 and even last year, at times the Crows were a bit stiff. And on the back end of some calls that didn't go their way, obviously remember Ben Keys' non-goal in the last round against the Swans, which would have put them in the finals. Obviously went against them, they didn't make it. There's a call against Jordan Dawson, high contact against Collingwood, one of their close games at the G, didn't get it as well. And I think lastly as well, there was Sam Draper and the Crows at Adelaide Oval last year when we can actually see Draper flopping on the ground after the game, kind of emulating what he did to make sure he didn't get penalised when he probably should have as well. So unfortunately for the Crows, or Crom, they seem to be the unluckiest team in the comp.
Yeah, and all of those calls, the AFL have come out and said the umpires got it wrong. So that's where they're really stiff about it. And yeah, it's just, geez, you're unlucky if you're an Adelaide fan. That old video of that Crows fan going, they were robbed right in front of me. That you can blast that. You can really blast that all over the place right now. It's you really hope that doesn't impact their finals chances again. Obviously, it happened in 2023, but they're contending again this year. And if they miss the finals by percentage or by a game, Crows fans are going to have a riot out there.
Yeah, so. I mean, I think it's just because my team's going badly and misery loves company. But if that has happened, it's going to be very funny, without a doubt. But. So the one on the weekend, so they had a minute 30 to go.
Yep.
And then was it Mac Andrew? No.
It was. So yeah, Isaac Rankin essentially had the ball marked, maybe dropped it as he came down, but there could also be argued that there was kind of contact prevented him from marking, so they could have been deemed illegal. So there was kind of two counts where he probably should have ended up having the shot.
Yep.
And as we kind of did mention, the AFL agreed that he probably should have had a shot on goal, which knowing him, and having played at that ground before as an ex-Sun, he probably would have nailed it too, which would have given the Crows a lossless start to the year.
Yeah. So if that it's still a minute 30 to go in the game. So yeah, it could have gone either way. So then what does that mean then for the Crows now? Like if they do miss out on finals, like what does that apology do for the Crows? Like it does nothing essentially.
Well, it doesn't indicate anything that the umpires or the AFL have done. But what I think they've come out as well post game and probably earlier this week too, that they need to just move on. The 4 points is done. The ladder's already changed. They've already got the loss in the loss column, so you can't consistently date back to that period where you were deemed unlucky, and the AFL have kind of admitted that as well. So hopefully they just move on. They've got gather around this week. They've got people coming to their state, so they're going to be full of energy, full of life, and hopefully they put a good show on and obviously kind of get some wins back on the board from that loss, they probably shouldn't.
So they essentially just have to get over it. So this is more, I mean, we're going to start talking hypotheticals here, right? So, but like, at what point can the AFL backdate something? So let's say it's a score review on the siren and it got called the other way, but then they find out later that it was a goal or something.
Great
Does
question.
that make sense? Like there has to be a point where surely a result can be overturned if they find out later that an umpire's call was wrong.
If it was on the siren, maybe there's a chance because, there's no play following that. But you think about the Keys goal in 2023, that should have been a goal, but they couldn't overturn the result because there was still time left to play. So Adelaide just got stiff and they missed the finals.
That was a bad hypothetical on my part. But
referring to like the VAR where you can still play and then they might go, hold on, 2 minutes have been played, so therefore you might have to bring back the call because it might have been an incorrect call at the time, and then they go to the decision. Is that what you're referring to?
No, I just mean is there ever a point that you can call back something after the result is done? So say the umpire made an incorrect call or a non-call, and then the AFL deemed that it was it should have been a free kick, and they had 2 seconds to go, where it directly impacts, like they essentially have no time left to play. You can't just go with the result that it ended up being if the umpire deemed it a non-call, right?
Well, yeah, you kind of just have to cop it on the chin. And the thing is, with AFL coming out and conceding that's why it's probably a bit more salt in the wound. So, well, hold on. So you do admit it's wrong. Yeah. Just be better at the time as opposed to just apologising consistently, which, as we've noted, Adelaide has done that. Happened to them
it's
4 times in 37 games, dating back to 2023. So
again, it's very funny that it's happened to Adelaide again and again and again. But I do, if that was my you'd lose fans, you'd lose supporters, surely.
Oh, that'd be absolutely fuming. I mean, imagine if it had to happen to a Victorian club, which again, you can kind of get into that bias thing between interstate and obviously Victoria, but I do kind of feel bad for them. Yeah, because again, they keep coming out and saying that they get it wrong. So
I mean, if there was, and it's also that not only that it was like Adelaide, an interstate team, but also Gold Coast, which is another interstate team, one of the smallest ones. But if that was on, let's say, Thursday night during Carlton and Collingwood, if that happened there, those guns, I'm going to cut this out, but I was going to say those guns would have been going off.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, Shane Warne stand might be pulled down. They might do reconstruction a bit earlier, but definitely.
Well, now I can't cut it out. But yes, if that call went, if that happened to Carlton Collingwood, I don't think it would have been the same result. It just would have been so much more.
Riots on Lygon Street, that's for sure. AFL would feel the full force of the fan base.
Well, okay. Well, let's move on from that. But I mean, Adelaide are going fine. They're going to be fine. They're coming into as I said, we've got to gather around this week, and then they're looking good. So I don't think if it does come down to them missing finals by 1 goal. That's going to be a very tasty podcast that week.
Oh, yeah. And shout out to the Adelaide fans as well, who probably won't tune in or tune in with such anger, if that's the case.
Oh, hoping they tune in. All right. Well, let's go to the other side of Adelaide now. So, and we're adding in Carlton and Melbourne. So I feel like we're talking about Carlton and Melbourne every week. We haven't talked about Port for 2 weeks since they won, but none of them are looking good.
No, it's an intriguing start. I'm the most intrigued about Melbourne at the moment. I think I talked about this last week and it sort of gave you a bit of a headache, but I'm curious about Christian Petrarca. His bit of a reaction after the game is clearly evidently frustrated with how they were going. And I think it was just a lot of people are considering, does he want to move? Is he regretting, sticking with his contract after last off season? I think to me, it's just a sign of a leader at the club who's really frustrated with the downfall. I was looking back at when he was injured last year in the King's birthday clash. At that time, they were 7-5, so they had a winning record. So he hasn't really experienced firsthand that sharp decline that they've had. Maybe he thought leading into the season, we've got a healthy midfield again. Clayton Oliver's back in ripping form. We've got that midfield mix that won a premiership. We're taking it up to GWS in round 1. We're getting back to how we were. But now, after the last couple of games, maybe that frustration is a realization that Melbourne are, on the decline, and he's starting to realize that maybe there was an optimistic view or something like that. Because, they were they were about 7-4 at round 11. 2 rounds later, he's out of the team, and they were a top 4 side back then. So maybe he thought they still had that capability, but now signs are starting to show maybe they're past that.
To be fair, when he was drafted, we won like 4 games or something. So he has experienced a really bad Melbourne, and it's probably a bit triggering now to be like, oh, okay, we're bad again.
Yeah.
What did you make of Christian Petrarca? Being as a Pies fan, you're going to be a beneficiary if he does leave the club.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think he's a Pies fan growing up as well, a big Scott Pendlebury fan too. So, I mean, I can see both sides of, I guess, the coin in that sense. He's frustrated where the club's at, but I think he's an ultimate professional. So that frustration you see is like, let's just get better. Let's just do better. We probably have the cattle in terms of producing better performances, but the last 3 weeks, aside from that round 1 game, they've put barely anything on the park that the opponent has to even really worry about.
Yeah. Like, you can see what they're trying to do. And I think like there is a bit of a pylon on, not a pylon on Goody. Like for me, Goody gets a long leash because he's won a premiership. It's the same with Bevo. Like if you've won a premiership, you have a pretty long leash. You can get through maybe another rebuild. Ken Hinkley doesn't have that sort of allowance, I guess.
Yeah, I think there's absolutely going to be pressure on Ken. If these losses keep starting to build up, it's just whether the club listens to that external noise. Ken's been saying in his press conferences, we're not listening to what other people say. We've got the plan and it's plans to see at the end of the year. And Josh Carr's been the same. He's like, I'm the assistant coach for this year, and then we'll move past that and we're going to stick to the plan. But, if they keep losing games, does Carr's head start ticking over about, or maybe it'll be better to have the changeover sooner rather than later. So obviously we don't know that, but it'll be interesting to see how that sort of plays out when the pressure from the media and everything like that starts piling in.
I just wonder if it becomes a hindrance on Josh Carr. So you've got Zach Butters, who's been flagged as a potential trade recruit for rival clubs. You got Miles Bergman looking potentially coming back to Victoria. So if they have a really poor season, then not only you're losing the coach who's been at the helm for 12, 13 years, you might actually lose some of your star players because rivals are just going to come pick them off, say, hey, we're, like a Hawthorn, hey, we're top 4 this year. We're going to be in the flag contention for the next 4 or 5 years. Why don't you be a part of it? Even St Kilda, they're building with a lot of youth. Hey, Miles, come back home. You only grew up down the road. Why don't you come join us and see what we're building here? Because Port, as it stands, are on the decline despite making a prelim last year. But we know there's going to be a coaching change. They've tried to change the game style. It just looks like it's a little bit, I don't know, a bit traumatic at the moment with that unnecessary announcement of, the coaching succession plan. They could have just done it in their own way, in their own time, as opposed to announcing to the world, this is what we're doing. Because now you just open yourself up to scrutiny.
Yeah. And now I think there would be less pressure if they didn't announce it because, obviously if they were losing start, the pressure's going to be on Hinkley still because he would have been out of contract and things and they think, should we sack him early? But then you get that freedom to make that decision without it already being like in the sphere. So you could have either backed Hinkley and say we're backing Hinkley to the end of his contract instead, or you could have, they could choose to sack Hinkley and go to Carr earlier in the season. Whatever they choose to do, they wouldn't have already had that pressure of Carr's next and when's it going to happen. They could have, I guess, taken their time with it, or there would have been. I'm struggling to articulate it here, but yeah, I guess there would have been a bit less pressure on the whole handover in general.
Yeah, but maybe there's also, surely if you're a Port fan, you're looking at what happened with Sam Mitchell and Alistair Clarkson at the end of Alistair Clarkson's tenure at Hawthorn, where you had Sam Mitchell waiting in the wings. I don't think it wasn't formalised as a succession plan, was it?
Oh, it was a bit, I think.
It was, and then Clark was meant to do some background role. And he goes, nah, not doing that. So then that's when he took it.
Yeah, the egos sort of clash. And I guess that's the whole point with what I was trying to articulate there was succession plans rarely go to plan. If you don't have that succession plan announced, there's less pressure on because everyone's already considering it. It could go wrong because there's already been so many problems with them in the past. Well,
you've already decided that the guy you've got now isn't the guy long term. So what is the point of keeping him around? I get, and this is coming from someone actually that before this one, I was like, succession plans work. You've seen with Paul Roos.
Yeah, exactly.
Work at Melbourne and Sydney. So, but this one just doesn't seem to be working. It doesn't seem like they.
Who's in charge? You're giving Kenny his fairy tale ending because you've done so well for us. Unfortunately, no flag, but we'll give you one more chance.
Yeah.
But then they're also trying to prepare for what Josh is going to do next year because they're kind of getting pulled between pillar and post here. So, I mean, look at Sydney just quickly. There had to be some sort of understanding, some sort of succession plan. They didn't announce it. hey, John, if you're not up to it, you know where Dean's going to be once you leave that hot seat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Clean, crisp, no noise made about it.
Well, that one I feel like it was up to the decision was pretty much with John Longmire, where it's like, okay, you're the coach until you don't want to be anymore. But I don't think that is the same with Ken Hinkley, where I don't think he has that level of control.
Well, yeah, I don't remember if Longmire was still contracted or not, because this year Hinkley's out of contract and they've already said, it's his last, and it probably would have been his last whether they announce a succession plan or not. So I think that's where the pressure comes from in that sense.
Yeah. Okay, well then another coach that's under pressure is Vossi, who they are winless. Didn't see that coming, I'll be honest. As much as I want to bag on Carlton, did not see them going 0-4 to start the season.
It's just gone from bad to worse. I mean, you can just predate it to the injury to Jagger Smith. I mean, obviously his ACL, bang, round one loss to Richmond. Harry Mackay comes out of the side. Elijah Hollins comes out of the side. Kerno comes in with an injury cloud. It's just time after time the Blues consistently find things. They kind of put them on the back foot initially, and then obviously no wins to this point just has them, their alarm bells are ringing at Icon Park. So I'm not too sure how they're going to get out of it. I think a nice matchup against the Eagles this week at Gather Round on Saturday. I think
also winless.
Who are also winless. So hopefully we might get one of those teams notching up a victory. We have seen draws before. But look, I think an easy beat like that might just get their confidence up and going. Travel over to Adelaide, maybe spend some time together, that bonding session that sometimes clubs need to rejuvenate their lists and their players. I think could be good for them. But if you lose to Eagles, it might be Vossi gone by round 6.
Yeah.
I can't... How much pressure is Voss actually under? Like, I know that he set that, we should be playing finals or whatever when he first came in. It's like when he first came in, they're playing finals. But Carlton, more than anybody, should know that sacking the coach isn't always the issue. And I don't think it is a 100% Vossi thing. I think his list doesn't really allow him to change on the go. Like, everybody knows what you're coming up against when you're playing Carlton. You're going to be playing,
good point.
Charlie, you're going to be playing the Twin Towers, you're going to be playing Patrick Cripps in the middle, and you've got Wiedering in the back. Yeah. Like, you know what you're coming up against.
Yeah.
And then, but like, is that a Vossi thing or is that a list management thing, which I guess Vossi's part of. But, but he has had, 4 years at the helm? So
I think this is his 4th.
Yeah. And he's gotten to a prelim and played finals other than that. So, like, is it... Like, how is this worth firing Vossi over?
Look, there's some losses that are bad and there's some losses that are bad. And I know I said the same thing twice then, but it's because, you can't be losing to a team like Richmond round 1. And that's what I'm saying. The Eagles, look, he's not going to get sacked. Put that on the table, although I think he could if he loses the Eagles. It's just... Sometimes it's just too hard to get back to where they should belong. And in this industry, in professional sport and even in the AFL in particular, it all depends on win-loss or performance. And we're a very impatient industry. So if you're going to be mucking around and losing games that you shouldn't, just find a way to win, even if it's ugly. But if you keep losing games that you shouldn't, then, it's pretty obvious what the answer may be. Yeah. Then again, there's not really anyone putting their hand up to come coach Carlton at the moment.
Yeah. I'm starting to think maybe there's an onus on the players now. I think Voss must be absolutely hammering home the same point every week and trying to just flat out get rid of this second half fade out. But then the players aren't responding anymore. So what can Voss even do? Like, he must be making changes, because you look at the first halves he's had to start the season, there's been a good game plan. I'm not sure whether the direction to change the game plan is coming from Voss or if the players are going, they're reclusing because they've got a lead. But then I went to the Blues Bulldogs game, and that game, heading into that game, all the commentary was around the inside 50 entries and they're just bombing it in. That first half, it sets up Zach Williams, bursts off halfback, instead of blazing away, he kicks a 15-metre kick onto Charlie Kerno on the lead, and you're like, wow, Carlton found their groove. Second half, they revert back to what it was. So is it the players just like... they're lacking their composure, and is that something like not even coachable from Voss's perspective? And maybe the players have that mental like fatigue, or not fatigue, but like the mental scars of, choking leads, and, suddenly the Bulldogs kick the first 2 goals and the Collingwood kick the first 2 goals, and they're thinking, oh, it's happening all over again. So yeah,
I think Carlton and Melbourne are in very different spots. Like I'm not sure about what the directive for Carlton has been, but for Melbourne, all the talk in the preseason was they're changing the game plan. We're trying to be a faster moving team, obviously hampered by the injuries to like Windsor and some of the other faster ball users. But you can see it in the first half of some Melbourne games, and even the one against Geelong is like they were trying to move the ball a little bit differently, but then they fade out, or maybe when they get tired, they just get back to just bombing it into the 50. Carlton might be doing the same thing. I mean, they've lost all their games pretty much in the exact same way.
Yeah.
Where, like you were saying, they do move the ball a little bit better, and then they just fade out completely in the second half. But but even then, Carlton are still a more attractive team to watch at the moment. Melbourne are just one of the okay. This is a new segment. I've put together a top 9.
Oh,
this is for TikTok, but this is the top 9 things I would rather watch than Melbourne right now because they are just playing very unattractive football. And I spent my whole Friday night just in front of the TV watching this, and the whole time I knew I'm not going to enjoy watching this, and I didn't. So I could have been doing anything else. So here are my top 9 things I would rather watch than Melbourne right now. Number 1, any other footy game. Literally any other game, every other game that I see on the draw or the fixture is more attractive to me at the moment than watching Melbourne play. Number 2, every single Christian Petrarca TikTok. I'd rather go through his entire TikTok and watch all the TikToks of him cooking tacos with his nonna or whatever.
That's performing better than the Dees at the moment, I reckon.
Absolutely. Number 3, every single Rory Lobb TikTok. I would rather watch... Like, I don't know if you've ever seen his page or what he's doing on TikTok. I
watch his hair get done weekly.
It's unbelievable. Like, that's an easy one. Number 4, this is a deep cut, but Titus O'Reilly's failed Fox Footy pilot Titus O'Reilly tonight. Have you ever seen that?
No.
That was a
mouthful.
No, it's bad. And it's bad. It's so bad. And he said it himself. It's bad. It failed for a reason. Yeah. Would rather watch that in Melbourne right now. Number 5, I'd rather just go down Swan Street and watch people walk in and out of that new chicken shop. Chook.
Yeah.
You been there?
I haven't been there. I have seen it though.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Any good?
Oh,
yeah, everyone's trying it out. So I just want to sit there and watch people go in and out and be like, oh, yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, so I'd rather watch that. Yeah. Season 7 and 8 of HBO's Game of Thrones. I'd rather watch that than any Melbourne game. And if you know Game of Thrones, you know that that's bad. Okay. Like those 2 seasons just completely ruin the show. Yeah. Number 7, Bluey. I'd rather watch Bluey than any Melbourne game right now. Number 8, Instagram reels of people building a golf green in their backyard. You ever watch that?
Like the time lapses and all
that?
Yeah. I've been stuck on the cabins made by logs.
Yeah,
Out in the forest.
Yeah.
And they just calm down. I'm like, I can just scroll through this all night. All day.
And you'd rather do that than watch a Melbourne game. Yeah. And number 9, the last thing that I would rather watch than Melbourne right now is, that video of St Kilda singing?
Oh, when the guy pops up
with Nick Rewalt?
Yeah. From 10 years ago.
Yeah, have you seen that?
A 1, a 2.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's like an acapella of them. Yeah,
it's so bad.
It's dreadful.
Big Boy Mac was
Yeah, but I'd rather watch that on repeat than any other Melbourne game at the moment. Anyway, so
there you go. That shows where it's at, doesn't it?
Yeah. That's what I'd rather watch. Anyway, next thing.
Was there like a maths there or, I don't know, Survivor?
Maths, 100% would rather watch maths.
That was a given. It was more just...
That was a given. That one's too easy. That's too easy.
True.
Anyway, next segment, I thought we would go through our Zero Hanger rankings. So every week we put in our MVP, our rookie rankings, and our recruit of the year. So who votes on the MVP, by the way? So it's you.
So myself, Callum, Mitch, and Nick.
Yeah. And how does it work? It's a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1?
So we all allocate 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 votes per game. Obviously, maximum a player can get is 20, and obviously it ranges depending on their performance throughout the game. But so far this year, which could be a surprise to most, we've got Josh Dunkley as the leader. Very narrow leader, though, from the Lions. I think the reason why we probably all can agree start's been great to begin with, but defensively, he's been super for them. And then obviously now he's probably reaping the rewards in the offensive end, finding a lot of the footy, kind of really impacting games for the Lions. And he's kind of like a tide turner. So when the Lions have had slower starts, it's always been him that's, laid a big tackle or gone to the opposition's best midfield. And he's really turned the game in moments or bursts. And then obviously the Lions can kind of get off the back of that as well. But then we've got Steele Cyburn from Collingwood still doing his thing at age 34, which is very impressive. Isaac Rankin, I think we all expected him to be right up there in the best players of the competition. And Sam Darcy as well. It's just making waves in the league at the moment with, how he's doing week to week. So
I like that. So usually the MVP is a pretty good indicator of who wins the Brownlow. I think they're very closely aligned most years. We've been doing it for 4 years or 5 years or something, and usually it matches up pretty well with the Brownlow. The one I like about that though is Sam Darcy, because he is not a midfielder. Well, he kind of is, and he could be.
He could be. He's got that ability, but he can do anything.
Yeah, he was unbelievable on the weekend as well. Once again.
The 5 goals,
thoughts on the MVP? Were you expecting Josh Dunkley?
Well, no, definitely not. But the consistency is the key here. I think he's been in the votes every week. Whether he's polling 5 votes is, probably not every week, but he's definitely polling a vote or 2 every week, and that's keeping him up in the upper echelon. Yeah. Same with Steele Sidebottom. He's however old he is, but he's getting 25, 30 touches a week, and he's adding some impact. Lockie Schultz won the man of the match in the game against Carlton, and of course he probably got the bulk of the votes, but still Sidebottom was still influential. So of course he's going to be in there, and of course he's going to keep polling, and he's going to be right up there. So
yeah, absolutely. We also have our rookie rankings, which we have spoken about on this podcast, I think, a couple of weeks ago. But Murphy Reid at the top.
Yeah, so I've flagged him from the start of the year. Not saying that it was a big surprise that he's going to be a superstar. No. But I love what he did in his draft year. I did kind of see a lot of games. I think it was the Sandringham Dragons. Boy, he probably could have gone top 5 in the draft last year, but just slipped. I think the Dockers got him at 17. And he's so creative with his hands. He plays that hybrid half-forward role, spurts into the midfield, which probably allows Shy Bolton to really go at attacking pace into the forward line. And it's just his ability to create from inside to outside, which we have seen so far, but we definitely saw in the round just gone by. I think he's a superstar. And it kind of reminds me of a Harry Sheasel and a Scott Pendlebury-esque type player. Has space when no one else does, has time when no one else does, and he uses the ball really well. So he leads the rookie rankings, and then Cal, you want to go through?
Yeah, so Levi Ashcroft's the next one up. I think he's been probably the most consistent rookie so far. He had 22 touches on the weekend and a goal, and I think he's hit the scoreboard or had 15 or more touches every week. So I think his consistency's sort of kept him in the top 5. I don't think he's dropped out yet. Neither has Murphy Reid, who I'd just like to mention is he's an absolute match winner. I didn't really pay attention to too much of the draftees last year. Didn't get around to it too much. I know the top ones, and I saw that he was going to go top 5, and he slipped. But yeah, he's little patch at the end of the game where he forced a stoppage in the forward line when the game was going, and then he kicked the ceiling goal. So that was unbelievable stuff. And then number 3, we got Sam Davidson. So that's a big one. I think he was pick 51 or something like that. Yeah. So absolutely he's come from nowhere. Yeah. But he's been really good to start the year. Consistent, been, showing up every week. He's been quite impactful with his possessions as well. Like he had the 27 or something like that a couple weeks ago, but he had just 18 on the weekend, but he still had 7 score involvement, so he's very impactful with his delivery. Aidan, you want to cover the last 2?
Well, yeah, no surprise that Sam Lawler is up there, especially after his performance against the Lions. I think it's 2 goals and 24 from a 4th gamer, so he's going to be an absolute superstar. We've seen it already, but it just goes from strength to strength each week. And then Riley Bice, so similar to Sam Davidson, both mature age picks, which in our rookie rankings is only in consideration because they haven't played a game before, so that's what makes them the rookie, as opposed to the rising star, which I think it's a different years. Different criteria. I think under 10 games or first year footballer at the age of 18. So Riley Bice, especially after his match-winning performance against the Dockers out in the West, but then also against North Melbourne, where he probably was one of the best, if not best, on ground. But yeah, again, he looks like an absolute gem for the Swans. Obviously mature age, so took his time to get through to the AFL level, but at age 24, he looks like he's ready to burst, and he's already shown that early on in the piece too.
Yep, absolutely. So a new one we're doing this year is Recruit of the Year. So how does this one work? Is this is it work similar to MVP where you get a number of votes, or is it more just a sort of...
It's similar to the rookie rankings where it's just a list, and depending on performances each week, you go up and down the rankings. I believe it's just off who switched clubs at the end of last year.
Yeah.
So if, you Bailey Smith, you moved from the Bulldogs to the Cats, Jack McRae from Bulldogs to the Saints, things like that. So anyone who's switched clubs during last year's off-season is eligible for the Recruit of the Year.
Okay. So Jack McRae at the top. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. A lot of people don't think he's polished, he's not clean, but his ability to win the ball, find the ball, extract it, and then find a teammate, which the Saints have loved because you got Wanganeen Miller, you got Sinclair being the beneficiaries of that type of player.
Yeah.
Has obviously number 1 in our Recruit of the Year rankings, but also I think it's just absolutely correct that he's there as well. So I think the Saints probably missed one there. Sorry, the Bulldogs missed one there. Now that the Saints are kind of reaping that reward.
Well, that was the big thing when he, because he wasn't getting a game last year. And then I think when he moved to the Saints, everyone was more talking about why would you let Jack Macrae go? But I think what is more evident now is that he's kind of perfect for what the Saints needed this year. Yeah. And you can see the results. They're actually good.
Yeah, and I think it was a bit of a win-win. I think the Dogs had too many midfielders in excess, and I know they had a few injuries this year so far. They might have needed a Jack Macrae, but they probably needed to allow some young guys to come through and probably have that dual position, whereas Jack Macrae is a pure ball-winning midfielder. Yeah. He can run all day as well, but he can't really play half forward because that's just not his natural role. So that's why we've got him up the top there. He's making a big influence at the Saints, and you've got the likes of Bailey Smith, Dan Rioli, obviously from the Tigers. Matt Kennedy, across from Carlton, he was played out of position. I think he played almost every game for the Blues last year, or maybe missed one or two. Yeah. But he's just a rock for the Dogs. So you kind of lose Macrae, but you bring Kennedy in. So some would go, what the hell is that about? But we've really liked Kennedy so far. James Peatling as well. His quick feet, doing damage at the Crows. John Noble, another Suns recruit, adding some speed off halfback. Dan Houston and then Luke Parker with his experience at North Melbourne. Yeah, some pretty interesting stuff there. I think, it's hard to say, but I think that's going to change a lot throughout the year. Like someone like Matt Kennedy, I think, is going to come through towards the end of the year and be maybe the best recruit. It's pretty, I don't know. He just seems very exciting to me, and he's just plays his role perfectly. Yeah, definitely
at the moment.
Definitely team-based. Yeah. Team first player, that's for sure.
Yeah, and then Dan Houston, if he can stay on the park and not get suspended, I think was clearly he should have been. I would have thought he'd be number one at this point, but again, misses too many games.
I was going to say, he missed round opening round, and then he's going to miss the next two. So
yeah.
Not doing himself any favours.
Yeah. All right. So a couple more things. I've got another thing here. This is very Zero Hanger specific. This is a secret segment that I haven't told you guys about yet. But we put this up on our Instagram the other week, and I just want to know who's responsible for it. But what do you guys think of this? So we put up this ranking 2025 captains. Do you know who was responsible for this one?
No, it wasn't me. So don't blame me, please.
Credit. I'm going to blame Mitch. I don't know exactly who did it, but so we took the captains and we ranked them in terms of leadership, skill, accolades, and personality. Right? And it had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So leadership, at number 1 we had Max Gawn. Number 2 we had Patrick Cripps. Number 3 we had Marcus Bontempelli. Number 4 we had I'm just blanked on his name, but for the Lions, Harris Andrews.
Could also be Lockie Neal too.
Yeah, and number 5 James Sicily.
Yep.
Thoughts on that so far?
So you had Gawn,
Cripps, Marcus Bontempelli, Harris Andrews, James Sicily in leadership. I'm okay with Gawn being number 1, but I know that nobody else should be, because we are we're down the bottom of the ladder.
Yeah, but performance of a team shouldn't be reflected in how good your captain is.
Right.
It also might mean those underlings that aren't listening to Gawn. That doesn't mean he's not doing a good job. But then again, it probably does mean that he's just not getting through to them. Yeah. So I might have just contradicted myself there.
I think Gawn is one of the better leaders. Just purely his ability to be like the PR guy off the field as well has just been a saving grace for the club at some points. So I think he's definitely worthy up there.
Right. I won't argue with that one. That's not the most controversial one for me.
Yeah.
Okay. So skill. We're on skill from 1 to 5. Marcus Bontempelli number 1. Patrick Cripps number 2. Lockie Neal number 3. Zach Merritt number 4. Max Gawn number 5.
Are you sure you didn't do this? Max Gawn features already.
To be honest, when I saw that, I was like, Gawn shouldn't even be in that top 5.
Not for skill.
No.
He's a star player.
I'm happy with Bontempelli at 1.
Yeah, Bontempelli, I would have gone Merritt. Jordan Dawson, I think, is slept on with how good he is and his skill. Who else do you have?
Zach Merritt underrated.
Yeah.
But I can't put him above Lockie Neal.
I think, again, it depends what type of skill. So Zach Merritt, I think, is arguably one of the best kicks in the competition.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Neal, again, they're different types of games. So when you look at it holistically, it's hard to nail which part of the game.
Well, I think if you take into account what type of player they are, what role they play, and what skills are required for that.
Yeah.
And then
in probably that case, you'd have to say Neal, given the fact also 2-time Brownlow medalist as well. above merit.
Marcus
that is.
Montepelli, no Brownless.
Yeah, but he should have 5. He should have 5. I don't care. I'll etch him one out of bronze and I'll give it to him because he deserves one.
And then by that definition, then Max Gawn being the type of ruckman that he is, I kind of can put him in that top 5.
And then you can because he's probably the best of the ruckman. Therefore,
Okay, right, that's fair. All right, again, not that controversial. That listing accolades. So number 1, Patrick Dangerfield. Number 2, Max Gawn. Number 3, Lachie Neale. Number 4, Marcus Bontempelli. Number 5, Patrick Cripps. So having Bontempelli above Patrick Cripps for accolades is a bit...
Well, it just depends what you weigh Brownlow medals to be.
Yeah.
So I think Bont's...
Because Bont's won those AFL PA MVPs.
Yeah, I think one
Okay.
MVP or maybe 2 from memory. But yeah, like 6 All-Australians. I don't know if Cripps has that many.
Okay.
Then he's also got the 2 Brownlows.
Yeah.
And arguably one of those, Marcus Bontempelli should have won.
Or 5 of them he should have won. I'm still going. But I mean, again, I think people are starting to realise, especially with the MVP, that's kind of seems to be the favoured voting because umpires obviously aren't given stats to make those decisions, and it's kind of difficult to make those decisions on day. So again, that's another topic of conversation.
Okay.
We won't go there, but
Okay, this is the one I have the most problem with.
yeah.
So the last category was personality.
How well do you
From
know
number
these
one,
guys?
from number 1, Darcy Moore. Number 2, Alex Pearce. Number 3, Marcus Bontempelli. Number 4, Max Gawn. And number 5, that's Rosie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure
Not
why
Rosie.
we put Rosie in there.
Rosie or Pierce, I wouldn't have.
Connor, yeah,
I
okay.
wouldn't even- I
So
wouldn't even
personality, I think, is like if you were going to have a beer with him at the pub.
Oh, Max Gawn have to be one of
Max
them.
Gawn should be number 1 there.
I reckon, yeah.
Not like all the rest of those guys are so media trained and like
Yeah.
I would barely want to have a conversation with. Like, love them as players, love them as people, but having Darcy Moore at the top of personality,
Too much of an intellect for me.
nah,
The conversations would go to areas I could not. Even
Just be one of those. Yeah, that's crazy.
Hey,
One of
Connor
those
Rosie, I don't think
conversations.
I've ever heard him speak.
I would be.
Oh, he's done those. He's like he gets all the. I forgot the word, but everyone loves him when he does those speeches after the Anzac Day and stuff because he's very well spoken.
Oh,
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah, but being
Incredibly
able to
well-spoken.
speak publicly doesn't mean you have a great personality. I can speak publicly.
But I guess that's the insight into that particular category because I don't know how else we've got
Yeah.
personality as a potential ranking system.
Yeah.
Because I don't personally, I've met him maybe some of them once or twice, but that's it.
Yeah.
Not enough to base a ranking off. But I'm guessing what Mitch did this. I'm liking it though.
Okay. Yeah.
It's gonna
Well,
ruffle some feathers, that's for sure.
I'm going to have to do some investigating on who made this grid at Zero Hanger because there's definitely some things wrong with it.
And Toby Nankervis, just on that though, he can be fun to have a beer with.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, he seems-
Personality. Like, there's like 4 other captains that I would probably put in there. Is Liam Duggan still captain? No.
He's
he's
co-captain.
co-captain.
He's
of
co-captain.
Australia.
Yeah.
He actually, he seems like a ripper. I think Bond for mine would be.
yeah.
See, but like
That's just more like
Bont for
personal
me
interest.
is like just in that Christian Petrarca category where it's like they're just like good guys and
Oh, you reckon?
like I
reckon Bond's
just
a step
like
up.
nah, he'd be nice. He'd be nice to hang out with. He's a good Italian boy, but
Oh, exactly
you know,
right.
like he's not going to be the first person I want to chat to at the pub.
No,
If Max Gawn's there, you're going to want to talk to Gawny.
So yeah, I guess if it's who would you have a beer at the pub with? Gawn would be number 1.
Yeah,
For sure.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And that for me, that is what personality comes down to, right?
Exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
I agree with that.
Last thing, thanks. Glad I could settle that with you guys. Got absolutely no answers, but it's fine. Gather round coming up. So I am heading to gather round with Mitch, who is not here.
Exciting.
Which is great because we're going to be spending like 9 hours in the car together and then 7 days straight together. So
no
I don't think
flight.
I needed a podcast with him today. But what games are we looking forward to? What do you got your eye on?
Well, initially pre-season, it was going to be that Sunday night game, Port and Hawthorn.
Well, we put that as our number 1 in our top 10 games to look forward to. And now it's like,
And I'd like to think that Port would still put on a showing, but I think the way Hawthorn's going, it probably looks like a more one-sided affair. So
yeah.
I'm expecting a bit of biff, but I don't think it's going to be. Oh, I don't want to sound arrogant and then it bite me in the ass. But
Make sure you cut this up. What are you about to say?
Yeah, but I think Hawthorn will get the chocolates there. But I'm expecting there to be a bit of fireworks to start off. Hawthorn aren't going to cop it. I think they're the ones who will come out and show a bit of fight first because they were the ones who copped it at the end of the game last year after they lost. And maybe they think, Port Adelaide have lost a few games. It's a weak point just to target them at the start. So I think the start will be really fun to watch.
It'll still be. It's a great way to end the round, especially.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a full day there. We're going up to the Barossa game that day, and then we're coming back to the Adelaide Oval game. We're also going to play some golf and maybe hit a winery up in the morning.
It's a wine country. You got it.
Oh yeah. I think that one there's going to be more. It's going to be more the theatrics of the game rather than the actual result.
Yeah, exactly.
If we had to tip it, it's Hawthorn by at this point 4 goals.
I think
minimum.
Yeah, the way they're going.
Yeah. Do you have another game that you're looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to Collingwood versus Sydney. Pretty 50-50. It's a pretty 50-50 matchup for me. Swans obviously smashed North Melbourne last week. I think if North Melbourne, showed some fight last week, I would have been pretty heavily on Collingwood because they've had a really strong start to the year. But Sydney have won 2 in a row now, so building some form. Dean Cox's game plan starting to, come into effect. So it'll be interesting, I reckon. It'll be a good game.
Yeah, they're kind of quietly just going about their business, as they usually do, and then they just make finals and lose a granny. For me, I'm looking forward to obviously the Dees, Essendon, not just because I'm biased, even though I've just been talking smack about Melbourne all day, but there is a sneaky chance that we can win that one.
Yeah.
Essendon have looked all right, a little bit shaky, but they're coming off that bye as well, and like some teams coming off the bye usually struggle, and then you add in the travel to that as well. But I think we've played them twice at Gather Round, or we definitely played them at in Adelaide.
The first year. Can't recall last year. No,
last year we played Port. I'm pretty sure we beat them. Yeah. Essendon, they beat us there last time, and it's going to be it's a Saturday night game. There's a lot of pressure on it. So it's going to be an interesting one for me.
Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, that's it. Anything else? What's going on at zerohanger.com?
Well, we got the tipping still going on. I just thought I'd point something out here. I've done a little tally. I've searched our names in the leaderboard and see how we're all tracking at the moment.
Boy.
So we got 238 people signed up to Zero Hanger tipping, and I've put all our names in just to track how everyone's going. I know in the first few episodes we were talking about our tips, so I just wanted to check who's going right, who's going wrong.
All right.
This won't be good.
Editor Mitch is 133rd, and he's the bottom out of every person we've had on this podcast so far. He's last. So that's
as long as we
feel
beat
better.
Mitch.
I really feel better.
As long as we beat Mitch.
So as long as we beat him, we can talk a bit of crap in the office. Unfortunately, Aidan, you're next. You're 113th.
Yeah, so the interesting thing with that is in my friends tipping comp, I'm like 3rd. So I think
you must
collectively
be,
as a mates group, we're terrible. If I'm 103rd,
either that or
113?
Yeah, 113.
Yeah, it's awful.
Either that or we're backing all the outsiders on our own tipping side.
I have been trying to get some outsiders,
get some
going.
points, get some points up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're 82nd. So you're in the top 100, which is
All
pretty
right.
respectable.
Take that.
Considering you go off the vibes and you just pick who you're feeling in the moment.
This
So
is
that's
what
pretty
I've been
good.
saying. You never pick based on your football intelligence. You just go off vibe.
Just go with the
That's
vibe.
top 3rd right there, by the way.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
And now I'm pretty happy with myself.
This is why you brought it up.
It's actually I'm 62nd, so it's not bad. I'm doing okay in the NRL zero tackle tipping because I missed a week, and then Sydney Roosters won with 1,000 point odds.
Oh wow!
So I was top 2 for a round, so that was pretty cool.
Okay.
But a friendly neighbour that comes in sometimes, Darren, is 12th. Top 12 out of everyone. So
that's why we bring him in, because he actually knows what he's talking about.
Yeah. Mitch and I definitely do not.
Oh, well, congratulations for being the best tipper at the table.
Yep. Well,
Shout out to Benji S as well. I think he's leading the entire tipping too. So
And Charlie, our designer, is apparently 7th because
so
he's just going off his nut. And Carl is 8th.
52.
And okay, so whatever. They're clearly cheating.
we'll fact check it.
Right. All right. Well, that is the podcast for this week. It was going to be a short one. We've actually done about 40 minutes. So,
Is that right?
yeah. So, again, Zero Hanger, we're going to be at Gather Round. If you see us doing content, come say hi. We are doing a treasure hunt as well. If you saw that video, Mitch needs to find a badge of Alex Chincotta. I need to find a badge of Christian Moraes. And we all need to find an AFL lookalike, a best or worst footy merch, rarest South Australian specific food, and we need to decide what the winner and the loser get. So I'm going to try and convince Mitch to put a tattoo on the line, but we'll talk about that later. He's not going to go for it. He's
Has he got a tattoo?
I don't think so. He doesn't seem like a tattoo guy.
You might get swept up in the Gather Round bonanza. It's
Mate,
it's a festival of footy. Come on. Who knows? He might get the Gather Round like flag.
Yeah, or just like the map of Adelaide.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's going to
Straight
be
on the
happening. So
chest.
if you gather around, you see us, come say hi. Or if you have a badge of Christian Moraes that you want to give me, I'd appreciate that a lot. But
Shouldn't be too hard though.
Yeah.
Maybe Mitch should be asking any Carlton fans going with Chin Cotter.
I don't think a badge of Alex Chincotta exists, which is good for me. So thanks for coming on the show, guys,
No worries.
and
Enjoyed
we'll
it.
catch you throughout the week.